brought to you by Farmers Weekly. I am Janine Ryan, the editor of Farmers Weekly, and in this webinar, we focus on the significance of training and upskilling for the future sustainability of agriculture in the country. There's a great need for knowledge and training in the sector due to the rapid pace in which agriculture is changing. Certainly engagement that we've had from our followers on social media is showing that there is a lot of interest in this topic. So I hope that today everyone will leave the webinar with some extra knowledge that they didn't have before. For farmers, aspiring farmers and farm workers to keep up in the sector, is essential that they immerse themselves in training where possible. And this is where we hope that our panelists will be able to offer some guidance. So before we begin, I'm going to ask the panelists to just quickly introduce themselves. We'll start with Maritjie. You're muted.
Good morning, everybody. Apologies for that. Thank you very much for the opportunity. My name is Maritjie Cornelissen, and I am working at the Western Cape Department of Agriculture, specifically at the Elsenburg College.
Thank you, Maritjie. I think we've lost one of our panelists, Gugu. Yeah, I don't see her there. Okay, we'll see if we can get her back. But Shane, would you like to introduce yourself next? You're muted.
Good morning, folks. I'm Shane Brody. I've been farming commercially for the past 30 years in various livestock species, being goats, cattle, sheep, and pigs. I've been involved in crop farming. Over the past 10 years, I've been running projects, development projects in the Harewood district of the Ciskei region, where I've been training communal farmer groups, youth groups in holistic land and livestock management, and in facets such as animal health, animal nutrition. So that's what's been keeping me busy for the 10 years.
Okay, and last but not least, Jenny.
Hi, I'm Jenny Moore. I am Director of RecruitAgri, and I'm a mentor. And we actually are in the White River area. We are farmers and in the agri side ourselves. And yeah, I've worked in communities for a very long time. I've worked in the ECD space for a long time, and then moved over to the agri side. And I am passionate about upliftment and yeah, involving graduates. So that's my passion.
Thank you. So after each panelist has spoken or given a presentation, we will open the floor, so you can please send us your questions in the Q&A option on your browser. And we'll try and get to as many questions as possible, but yeah, we're limited in time. So if we don't get your question, please let us know, and we will try to put you in contact with somebody who can help. So with that said, let's start with Maritjie.
Thank you very much. Yeah, as I've introduced myself, my name is Maritjie Cornelissen, and I'm working at the Elsenburg College. So also we have a passion to create platforms for anybody interested, especially our youth, to be educated and developed within the agricultural sector. We proudly celebrate our 125th birthday of the college this year, and Elsenburg was one of is the first college, and it was established in 1898 already. So we offer formal and non-formal training. So on our formal side, we also have 2 sub-programs. We have the Higher Education and Training sub-program, where we offer a Bachelor's in Agriculture degree in collaboration with Stellenbosch University. We also have a 3-year diploma in agriculture, And then we offer national certificates or learnership programs, and that stretches over 1 year. That is at the agricultural skills development side. So we also have short courses that can be over a period of 2 to 10 days that we offer to anybody interested, but our focus is on our agri workers and on our youth to skill them and to ensure our food security as our ultimate vision and sustainable agriculture. We are one program of 8 programs within the Western Cape Department of Agriculture, and that really is a very big benefit being placed in such a environment, as we work very closely together with our agricultural producer support and development program, our veterinaries, our agricultural economists, our research program. And having said that, that ensures that our curriculum stays aligned, and that we know that we have the updated and latest content in our curriculum. So we also have equine studies, horse masterships that we offer over a period of 1 year. And all our formal programs are accredited at the relevant accreditation and quality umbrella body, like the QCTO, Council on Higher Education and Training. And we make sure that we, especially with the new technology and the latest climate change environment, that our content is continuously updated. We do have workshops and short courses where we include staff as well as our students to be updated on especially the drone workshops. It's the students really like that because it's very exciting and it takes a beautiful view from above, and they really enjoy that. Yeah, our college is situated about 12 kilometers outside of Stellenbosch, and although we have the degree that we offer in collaboration with Stellenbosch, obviously that knowledge and experience is applied to across all our training programs. We will also have a project where we recognize prior learning, and that specifically is very important in our for the discussion today, because we have a labor force that already has the experience, years and years experience working on farms, working within the industry, but they never had the opportunity to obtain a qualification. So we have a project where we will invite individuals and identify beneficiaries, and we will assess the experience, and we will do a moderation process and a mediation process to determine what they can get a qualification for, built on the assessment and of the experience, and then identify future training needs to complete a full or a part qualification. As I've said, we are celebrating our 125th birthday this year, and we also have colleges from agricultural colleges from across the country this week here for a rugby week. I don't know if you can see that I'm dressed in a tracksuit because we've got a final rugby match. So today between Grootfontein Agricultural College and Elsenburg will be competing against one another. And that also forms part of the holistic development of our students, the sport and the unity across diverse groups. So for now, that is all from my side, and I welcome everybody to contact us. I know that the email address will be shared, but you can send an email to DOA, that's capital letters, .study, and the S for study is a capital letter, at westerncape.gov.za.
Thank you, Maritjie. Can I just ask, does Elsenburg offer funding plans or funding options for students or potential students?
Yeah, We do have bursary options. So when students apply, they can also indicate whether they need a bursary or not. And then we also assist outside external organizations or businesses who want to offer bursaries, assist them in facilitating such a process.
Okay. And in terms of the RPL, do you apply for it? Is there like an application process that you contact Elsenburg and say that you want to get the RPL exemption, or yeah, can you just elaborate a bit on that process?
Yes, it's actually a dual process that we follow. We, as I've indicated, we offer short skills courses. So we will have a database of beneficiaries that already attended short courses. So we will offer them the opportunity to apply to be part of the RPL process. But anybody interested can contact us at that email address, and we will put them on the database. This will be an annual project that we continue with.
Okay, thank you. I'm sure there will be some more questions for you a bit later on. But I think Gugu will move on to you now. So will you just introduce yourself first, because we missed you at some point.
Sorry about that, load shedding. So good morning, everyone. My name is Gugulethu Mahlangu. I am a farmer, a smart farmer. My interests and passions are in aquaponics. I am also a citizen journalist, so I love to speak about anything agriculture related on my social media pages. And I'm also the founder of #FarmSpaces, #FarmSpacesAfrica, where we get to have conversations about agriculture and the latest trends on Twitter Spaces. So yeah, Janine, can I share my screen?
Yes, please go ahead.
All right. All right. So I'm just trying to maximize here. I don't know what's happening. Oh, there you go. Okay, so today I'm going to be speaking about skills to success. You know, what are the actual essential skills required in the agricultural sector, and provide guidance on how to acquire them, right? Because I'm a small scale farmer, and I've recently, started an aquaponics farm in my hometown. So it's very essential for me to always rally for the small scale guys, because I'm one myself, right? But I thought that I would put a presentation together on some of my experiences and some of my observations of, what differentiates between a great farmer and a good farmer. So before we get into the skills needed to become this great farmer, I thought I'd share some traits about what farmers do and how farmers are. So if this really fits within your personality, then maybe you should consider agriculture. So we all know that a farmer is passionate and dedicated. One of the questions that you get asked in the agricultural space is, why farming? Why did you choose agriculture? And I bet you, 90% of the people are always going to speak about the passion, because if the passion isn't there, then you can't be dedicated to anything, right? So the passion is there, and in order for this passion that's igniting inside of you to become a farmer gets materialized, you need to get your hands dirty, literally, right? So you need to acquire knowledge, and you need to get experience. And from then on, then you are able to grow as an individual, but also grow as a farmer, right? And another thing to note about farmers is that they're problem solvers. The other day, I have a lot of mentors. The other day, I asked my mentor a question about, what to do in terms of scaling, in terms of getting the data for lettuce in the aquaponics space. And immediately he came up with a solution, right? This is somebody who's knowledgeable, who is a walking textbook, and he's able to solve the problem because of the years of experience that he's accumulated. Okay, so being a farmer is very important. It's an important job, and you can't decide that today, I want to farm, and tomorrow I'm gonna do something else. It's really dedication. Once you're in, you have to dedicate your time and energy into becoming the best farmer, right? So these guys and women are hard workers as well. And they are also they also practice environmental stewardship. Most of the time when you notice the latest buzzwords, we are all going green. There's the green economy coming up. So farmers are also ensuring that they give back to the land. No one is mining the land and, just trying to suck it dry. Everybody's trying to take care of the soil, ensuring that, the land that they use can sustain them for generations to come. So that's just a quick introduction on what a farmer is. And if these are the traits that you believe that you have, I really think you should consider farming, okay? So what are the skills to success in terms of the future? A farmer is always ready for the next step, right? When I first got into agriculture, I believed that all you needed to do was just sow a seed and something will grow. And that is absolutely not true. When it comes to farming, most of the commercial guys plan even years ahead. So they forecast their production, right? Because they're putting so much investment into their land that they need to ensure that they are going to succeed. So you need to be a future planner. You can't get into the agricultural space and feel like, well, I'm going to just take it day by day and hoping for the best, right? You have to be a future planner. And some of the examples that I've listed here is smart farming. It's the latest innovation in terms of how we can farm. So we can all farm traditionally, as we've all done, but we can also look at smart farming, precision farming, urban farming, bringing farming closer to the cities and metropolitans and urban areas, right? A future planner also is aware of the climate change and they adapt to it. So like I mentioned before, we've all heard about the green economy, going green. What does that mean, right? So a farmer who is dedicated to upskilling themselves will know what climate change is about, all right? And I also wrote here sustainable and regenerative. These are also practices that are currently helping our ecology, helping farmers get better. Like I mentioned, prioritizing soil health, prioritizing the land that we are working in that gives us so much, we're also giving it back. And I also noted here policy change and investments. Currently, I don't know if you guys heard about the Dutch strike. They are currently striking because the EU decided that they are going to cut 30% off greenhouse gases, nitrous oxides that are primarily caused by cattle. And if you guys know that the Netherlands, they're one of the biggest meat suppliers in Europe. So obviously the farmers are up in arms. They're saying that this is a policy that we do not agree with. But it is happening. It's currently happening. It's policies that are getting implemented. So a future planner will be steps ahead to be like, this is what's currently happening. What can I do to solve this? That is what upskilling yourself means in this industry, right? And collaboration. Collaboration is so, so important. Currently, WWF, which is the World Wildlife Fund, said that South Africa will have to produce 50% more food by 2050 to feed an estimated population of 73 million. Currently, we are at 61 million people in our country, in South Africa. So by 2050, I don't know how old you guys are going to be, but we need to be feeding 12 million people. And where's that food going to come from? You know, where's that food going to come from? So collaboration is very, very important in understanding this journey of skills to success. You have to collaborate with the key players. Otherwise, you know, we're not going to be able to feed ourselves. That's the reality of agriculture. So the next slide here that I have is a farmer is an opportunist. A farmer is an opportunist. Guys, we are currently living in the information era. So information is available, information is free, right? And we really need to take use of that opportunity, because that is an opportunity, especially to the youth, to the younger generation coming in the agricultural spaces. You need to be reading, you need to be learning, educating yourself, you know, attending, if you weren't maybe privileged to go to an agricultural high school, you know, you can still go to an agricultural college. You can still do agricultural courses even online. You should be attending workshops to understand what's happening. You know, how do I'm actually, you know, a spinach farmer, and what I'm realizing is that I cannot access markets, premium markets, because they want me to grade and handle, you know, my spinach delicately. I don't know how to do that. Then you have to be attending workshops that upskill you so that you can be a better farmer, that you can separate yourself from a good farmer and a great farmer. And currently what I actually love is the accelerator programs that we can now find that are also upskilling young people, youth, women. You know, it's really empowering, so that you can join that as well. You know, be an opportunist. And you can also pitch. You know, I'm currently pitching like crazy, and it's helping me with my confidence. It's helping me understand what I need to go back and touch on, where my strengths and my weaknesses. So pitching, be an opportunist, you know, and really grab opportunities that are currently available. And the last one here that I wrote is mentorship, and I cannot stress this enough. I have so many mentors, and I'm so grateful for that. And most people come up to me and say, oh, well, you know, where do you get to these mentors? You know, there's no like social media platform where you can just click and say, you know, can I please get a mentor? But I like to look at it like everybody has a favorite celebrity, right? Everybody has somebody that they follow religiously, whether it be for their music, arts, books. That's how you kind of have to be in the agricultural space, okay? And I wrote here step 1, step 2. As to how to acquire these mentors. So the first thing that you need to do is you need to read magazines, agricultural magazines. You need to read agri-related content. That's when you're going to see who the guys are in your industry, be it grain, vegetables, fruits. You're going to see and be inspired by people already in this industry. And what I love about these agricultural magazines is that, you know, they leave contact details. I don't know of any other celebrities that, you know, people might follow that where you can just call up Britney Spears. You know, you can't do that, but in this industry you can, and that's absolutely, it's a privilege, right? So there's step 2 as well that I wrote here, to attend seminars and organizations. That is how you're going to get to network with people, get a broader sense of agriculture. You know, sometimes when you are in your small piece of land, in your area, you don't really get exposed to what's actually happening. So exposure is very, very important. And that is really part of the skills to success that I believe is very important. The value chain, skills to success on the value chain. There's a quote here that one of my mentors once mentioned to me, and I thought it was so powerful that I'm going to share it with you guys today. He asked me, all right, he said, do you want to focus on primary agriculture, or are you just misinformed? Do you want to focus on primary agriculture, or are you just misinformed? And I found that so powerful, because when you think of agriculture, immediately you think farming, right? You think of the farmers, you think of tractors, you think of land, you think of, you know, all the wonderful things that you can grow. But the agricultural industry is so vast, it's so big. It's like this big pie that's divided into 100 pieces or 1,000 pieces, and each piece tastes differently, you know? So you kind of need to bite a few to realize, what is it that I actually enjoy about agriculture? What is it that I actually am even good at? So I wrote here, pack house. You know, when you want to access or when you want to kind of climb up the ladder from a small scale farmer to an emerging farmer to eventually a commercial farmer, because I believe that's the natural ladder that we all want to climb. You need to grow in terms of ensuring that your production is of quality. Everybody wants your spinach, but then you also need to access the markets that will be willing to pay you a premium for it. And one of the ways to do that is that you have to have a pack house, right? So in terms of post-harvest handling, pack house is very, very important. And who is going to regulate that pack house? Who's going to come and say, this is good quality? Who's going to grade this spinach of yours? So that is where you can also fit into this agricultural trade. It's so, so big. You know, the regulators, who's going to ensure that the food that we buy at the retail stores are of quality, are safe, have been grown with good agricultural practices? Somebody has to do that. And also there's agri-tech apps to ensure that farmers can now focus on farming, and you know, they can record their data, they can see other farmers and what they're doing, they can access funding, they can speak to legislators. So people are getting creative in the agricultural space. And that is the opportunities that present themselves in the space that ensure that we are also successful. And logistics, one of my friends actually started a cold room truck because she realized that farmers are in the outskirts and they need to access markets in the cities, but they don't have a cold truck. Either it's too expensive for them to buy. So she decided to be part of the value chain and offer that service. And she's doing very, very well. So part of skills to success really is understanding that the pie is just so big. You need to realize and expose yourself to the in-betweens to see where you can fit and most importantly, make money, right? And the last one here is curators. Somebody's also got to tell the story, right? So the value chain is very big. So people need to also expose themselves to the potential of agriculture. And I just want to focus on production, right? So what are the essential skills that we need here in production? This is a very tough one because sometimes farmers feel like what works for one farmer can also work for you, which necessarily that's not the case. All right. So when it comes to you and your land and your baby and your vision and your dream, right? What are you going to do to make sure that you're maximizing on this piece of land that you have? Do you know where to get the affordable prices for whatever you're going to decide to grow? Can you transplant fast? Do you have tools to transplant fast? Do you have the workers? Have you identified the workers that are really good at certain things? You know, can you manage that? Do you know how to grade your produce? Do you have bargaining power? Can you negotiate? Are you able to negotiate? These are the skills that are so crucial for a farmer to have. Something as simple as a scale that I put here that can weigh your produce so that you are able to understand that from a square meter, I am able to grow X amount of spinach. It took me X amount of rands to grow this spinach, and I'm selling it for this amount. One of my mentors asked me something very valuable that I'll never forget. He asked me, how much does it cost you to produce one head of lettuce? And I really couldn't answer him because I haven't done my due diligence in understanding what I'm working with from its basic core, which would be just one potato or just one lettuce head or just one spinach bunch. Have you done your numbers to ensure that you are maximizing production? And as harsh as this may sound, what separates a good farmer and a great farmer can be something as simple as scale. Do you have a scale in your production, right? Because we're all aiming for, I wrote here, best quality, good seeds, good product. Also with the seeds, do you know where to get the right quality seeds? You know, I think when we're speaking about primary production, we forget that our suppliers are, you know, they are supposed to be held accountable for anything that we decide to buy from them. So if you're going to buy a chemical product from X shop, if it doesn't work, you have every right to go back to X shop and say, this is not working for me. All right. So upskilling ourselves with such knowledge can really separate good and great, especially if you're starting out in agriculture. And harvest time, that's one of the best times of a farmer, when they get to harvest, right? I wrote here that sub-Saharan Africa is home to nearly half of the world's usable uncultivated land. 220 million rand is usable. No, did I say rand? 202 million hectares is usable, but is uncultivated in sub-Saharan Africa. For me, that's already mind-blowing. All right. And 2 million South African small-scale farmers exist today. And there's 35,000 commercial growers. And remember what I spoke about collaboration. I know that in the avocado industry, currently one of our biggest nurseries supplied 20,000 microclonal seedlings to small-scale farmers. And that was absolutely remarkable. And that shows that the big industry players are coming to support the small scale guys so that we can cultivate the land that we have, the potential that we have. All right. And for those who don't know avocado microclonal seed, rootstocks, just think of it as seeds, the best seeds for avocado. Okay. So when it comes to harvest time, that's when we get very excited. But I believe that it is a time of reflection. Reaping what we sow, right? We finally got the work of our hands, the fruits of our labors. But now it's time to reflect and be like, what can we do to improve? This is what I did this year. Next year, what am I going to do better? And that is how we're going to grow. That is how we're going to make the move from small scale to commercial or emerging to commercial. So these are really part of the skills to success. You need to understand what you did wrong. It's okay to make mistakes, but you need to rise up again. And that's what makes a farmer a great farmer. So I already spoke about the land potential that we have, especially in sub-Saharan Africa. So we can all establish that we're in the right place for agriculture, which is fantastic. We are happy about that. But where can we source out this land? How can we utilize it? How can we maximize it? I already spoke about the collaboration that needs to take place. You know, if you know that somebody has walked the journey of agriculture and they're doing so well, why are you not learning from them? You know, why are you not utilizing your time, especially as a young person, your energy to be learning from somebody who has mastered something that you want to start? Okay, so that's really important. I wrote here a lot of things, one of it being farm management, entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship is literally going after what you want because you're not getting a salary, you're not getting paid a wage. You know, you have to make your own money and your money has to work for you. So you're constantly investing, getting money, putting it back, getting money, putting it back. So you need to be able to utilize and maximize what you have. Resource management can help you. Record keeping can also help you. If you have data of saying, last year, 2022, this is what I did. I sprayed X amount, I put in this chemical fertilizer, and this is the result. It's not that great. How about I try something else? So record keeping is very, very important. Financial planning, management, marketing, processing, packaging, transport, natural resources management, mechanical and electrical knowledge. And the beauty about all these things that I've listed here is that you don't have to do it alone. It's okay to ask for help. It's okay to spread yourself out and be like, this is what I'm good at. I'm good at farming. Give me a seed and I will give you the results right now, but I'm not good at record keeping. So maybe that's something that I need to infiltrate in my books to say that I need somebody who's going to count my money for me. I'm not good at that. I don't have the time. So that is part of how you can maximize what you have, because we are really sitting on, I think, gold. It's estimated that Africa is going to be the breadbasket of the world by 2050 because of all the potential this country, this continent has. Okay. So in closing, I wrote here good seeds. The farmer has to be an optimist or he wouldn't be a farmer. This is a quote by Will Rogers, and it speaks to the qualities of a farmer, right? You have to be an optimist. But in part of you being an optimist, you are being an optimist based on the value and the knowledge that you are investing in yourself. Okay, so you can't be an optimist and wish upon a star on absolutely doing nothing. You have to try, and you have to work, and you have to fail sometimes, but you have to learn from that. You have to keep plowing good seeds, right? Because good seeds are the backbone to agriculture. I recently attended a seed congress, and I was so surprised that we use seeds every single day, but we are not knowledgeable in terms of the seed industry. And that was really surprising to me, because it's like seeds are the first thing you think about before you even do anything. Your land preparation is, what am I going to be planting? And that comes from the seeds. So seeds are really the backbone. You need to get certified seeds in this country. You need to ensure that you're getting certified seeds and you're not being robbed, and the seeds have undergone quality testing, and then you're getting the best for your produce and for your money. So certified seeds are something that is really important here in our country. Anyway, but for me, I was also, it was new information to know that certified seeds are currently happening in South Africa, and this is the process. And learning just about that journey was very inspiring for me. So here I wrote, plant your seeds with the right people. And this is so important. You need to associate yourself with the right people. If you want to grow potatoes, I think the best thing for you to start is maybe joining IE Potato SA. Join an organization, join WhatsApp groups, join Facebook groups. If you're doing maize and you really want to be the best maize farmer in Mpumalanga, perhaps join Grain SA. All right. So you really need to start planting your seed where it's definitely going to grow, just by association. And the last thing I wrote here is plant and water the seed in you. Okay, so don't forget to also water the seed in you. You have decided to undergo this wonderful journey of agriculture, but you also need to plant a seed within yourself to make sure that the passion keeps burning each and every day, to make sure that the dedication is still there. And that can be done in a number of ways. Some people take regular breaks because farming is a bit stressful. They take regular breaks, or they engage in hobbies. But it's really essential that if you want to be the best, you need to also invest in yourself and your well-being. But what I love about this industry is that once you get into farming, it's the weirdest thing, but it's like you are undergoing therapy and this meditative journey, but you are also undergoing high pressure stress. It's the way it intertwines is very interesting. So this is a very interesting industry, and I hope that when you look at skills in this industry, you will remember that it all starts with a good seed. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gugu. Sorry, there's my camera. I just wanted to ask you, Gugu, you spoke about accelerator programs. Could you just perhaps elaborate on that?
Yes, Janine, thank you so much for that question. So accelerator programs are currently programs that prepare you for your business plan, or even help you draft a business plan. Some of them usually, sorry, my video is off.
That's fine.
Some of them usually have a competition at the end, or a pitching competition that somebody can get excited about. So it really kind of accelerates you where you are, and they accept you if you aren't established yet, and you really want to make sure that you understand what you're getting into. You're able to sell your business idea. You're able to use your business plan as your ticket, because some people don't even have the capital needed to start agriculture. But if you have a solid business plan that shows research, that shows that you've done your market research, you've done the work, your value, your books, what it takes to grow one head of lettuce, then that is something that can really differentiate you from good to great.
And who offers these programs? Like how can you get involved with something like that?
It's mostly private companies, and they're on social media, so they will definitely be posting about it. Like I said, you have to be following as religiously as you would follow your celebrities to get information access. But it's mostly private companies. I know the Biz Hub, Innovation Hubs in Gauteng do it. JCI has something going on as well. Climate Launchpad has something for people in the green economy. So it's mostly private companies. But yeah, also on my social media, I share all these opportunities for people.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Shane, let's get to you. I think maybe just before you start, just reintroduce yourself, because it's been a while since the beginning of the webinar.
Right, folks, I'm Shane Brody. I have been a senior manager for the Olive Leaf Foundation, which is a sustainable development organization that was formed in 1989. We've done a lot of work, not only in South Africa, but also abroad. We're actually running various things at the moment in Costa Rica, Mongolia. Our core emphasis is about holistic land and livestock management. I've heard some very inspiring things now this morning from Maritjie and from Gugu. And indeed, we have a number of challenges that we need to address. A lot of my work over the past 10 years has been in the Harewood district of the Ciskei region, which is a region of about 100,000 hectares. It includes 45 villages. We've actually done vast amounts of research there in conjunction with organizations like Fort Hare University, with UCT. We have been involved in a lot of the research that we do. Just to basically fill you in, I think it's important to give some type of a context where I come from. My formative years were spent in the former Transkei region when we were expropriated there when the Transkei was formed in 1974. So my folks had been living there, and my family had been living there for 4 generations. So I had a very intimate knowledge of communal farming from a very young age. It's quite important to just, as I say, to give some context about these communal farming regions, because they are quite vast regions. As some of you may know, South Africa is approximately 122 million hectares big. 30% of that is the largely arid Northern Cape, which is not a great farming area, although farming does happen there. So we don't really have a lot of, if you look at the estimates of fertile land in South Africa, it's about 15% fertile land, it's about 50% arable land. If you go to a country like India, which is 50% fertile land, it tells you that we've got challenges. We've obviously got climate change, which is a big thing. There's a lot of factors which are out there, which are starting to create big problems for more so the small to medium farmer. You know, agriculture has largely become a game of scale. You know, obviously the more livestock you run or the more maize you plant, you know, the smaller your margins actually have to be. You know, it's like a person farming 50 pigs versus a person farming 5,000 pigs. You know, the person farming 5,000 pigs can get by on making 300 Rand a pig, you know, profit, where, you know, the small farmer needs to maximize that. I mean, they could never survive on those types of margins. So much of our work was to get into the Ewe community. We were actually funded by the Belgian government. We were also at the stage funded by Cape Wool's South Africa. I've run a few wool growing projects there, you know, involving the youth. And just to come back to how important skill and training actually is. One of the youth groups there which I trained was 8 young women. They had absolutely no knowledge of wool growing. And it was quite a challenge for me, you know, I was given 2 years, you know, to train these young women. And they were donated 100 sheep and 2 sheep rams. And the sheep rams arrived there, well, the sheep ewes arrived there on the onset of the winter, and they were all in lamb. So it was a very, very, how can I say, trying type of an exercise. To cut a long story short, after 2 years of training, and I'm not blowing my own trumpet here, I'm just, you know, trying to indicate how it actually is trying to upskill. That young farming group won a national award in farming. It was the entire thing, you know, for me, is how important it is for people to understand what the foundational needs of farming is. You know, as I mentioned, farming is becoming increasingly challenging. We've got climate change, we've got more and more disease outbreaks. We saw what occurred now with the foot and mouth outbreak and what that did to exports. So it's a case of that. What we also realized is that it wasn't only about skill as such. It was trying to ascertain what are the inhibitions to allowing skill transfers to actually happen. And if we look at the former homeland regions, which are 16 million hectares, which is a sizable portion of land in South Africa, and a lot of our farmers in this country actually come from those regions. You know, their numbers tally up in the millions, albeit a lot of them are very small farmers. You know, our research ascertained that, you know, the average in the region that we were working in was that each farmer owns 10 sheep or goats and 3 to 4 cattle. But if you upscale that to the 16 million hectares, it's a vast number of livestock that is actually out there. You know, most of our emphasis was on livestock farming because it's a natural asset that's there. You've got the livestock in these regions, you've got the land asset is also there. You know, if you appropriate a value on average to the land value of the former homeland regions, it amounts to about 100 billion Rand in land value. Our livestock estimates for those regions, according to what we ascertained in the Haywood district, is approximately another 120 billion Rand worth of livestock. But the problem is that these regions are riddled with poverty. There is vast unemployment. In the region that we worked in, we ascertained that the unemployment rate was 86%, which is extremely high. So what we then did is that we also ascertained what are communal farmers losing in the region that we were working in, which is 100,000 hectares. And when we looked at all all the variables like what these farmers get for their sheep's wool, what they get for cattle when they sell, what they lose in terms of lambs that die, calves that die because of disease. You know, we ascertained that they fall short to the tune of 400 million rand under what their commercial counterparts are actually earning. So if you upscale that to the 16 million hectares, it runs into tens of billions of rands. I think the figure was about 80 billion rand lost per annum over 16 million hectares. And that to me is completely unacceptable. We need to change that. And the only way that we can change that is to upskill and to train and to mentor. If you consider too that at the national cattle herd hovers at around about 15 million animals, not even 10% of the cattle coming from the communal farming areas make up the formal red meat market in South Africa. I think it was something like 6 or 8% of that livestock, and more, just over half of the cattle herd in South Africa is actually in those areas. So I think we're starting to see what the challenges are, where the huge losses are. And you know, when we went into these areas to institute holistic land and livestock management, which is basically an holistic approach to how you graze your rangelands, how you move your animals. Some people like to call it high impact grazing. It's not exactly that, but it's a system of using herders to move livestock around, which then assists the community not to overgraze. A very big problem which we have found in the region that we work, and in some former projects I did in the former Transkei region, is that land is becoming seriously degraded on a yearly basis. We've got invasive types of vegetation coming into those areas, like our pacebos, floribundus, which is something that completely ruins veld. It makes your veld completely dysfunctional. And a lot of that came because of a lack of good grazing methodology. You know, I'm not here to blame farmers in these regions. I'm out there because I want to assist them. But the problem is that there are also historical legacies in these regions. You know, a lot of the men in those regions were forced to go work on the mines as part of the migrant labor system. There was a type of a knowledge gap, you know, over like two generations of farmers. And that is not easy to rectify. So we went into these regions and we suddenly realized that there's not only a land degrading issue, but there's also social issues. Fatherless homes, you know, being one of them. A lack of synergy and cohesion, you know, between families and people. You know, it's quite hard having 50 farmers in one village trying to farm on effectively what's one farm. You know, I may be doing things right, you know, I may be dipping my cattle and vaccinating them, but then my neighbor isn't. So we've got a constant sort of a system where livestock disease is not being got rid of. You know, we've got parasite issues, we've got internal worm issues. So, you know, part of the work that we do is to create synergy, you know, in these village systems. And there are certain steps that we go through in the training and the skills which we try to put across to people. You know, most people want to work. You know, farming's about work. You know, Gugu mentioned how you need to be, you know, you need to really be committed and you need to prioritize things. But in our steps of training, work only comes in at point 4. You know, point 5 is abundance and resilience. So, you know, you may ask, well, then what are points 1, 2, and 3? You know, a lot of projects start at 4. You know, some funder comes in and gives the community a cattle herd or starts a vegetable project, and then people wonder why those things fail. You know, I can take you to the Harewood district and show you literally dozens of projects which have failed. And we ascertain why that happens. You know, the first thing is that we need to ascertain, and what we do in the projects that we run is to ascertain the level of community health. You know, that's not physical health, but that's like the social health. You know, are there farmers associations there? Are there youth groups? Are there women's groups? So we go and we ascertain that, you know, via like a questionnaire system, house to house. You know, it's a tiresome thing, but that's how we've ascertained a lot of the factors that we have like noticed have been hamstringing factors. So we then go to context. You know, what is the context that that village, because all villages and all farming regions are unique. You know, you may want to do a farming project in the Northern Cape, it won't work. You know, if you're trying to do beef breeds in the arid environment there. So we go and we do a context development and we get the community. And this can be done in companies and in businesses too, to develop a statement of purpose. What does the community want? What training are they looking for? What interests them? You know, if I take an avocado project to Hewu and I say, well, I think you can make a lot of money from avos, but the community doesn't want to do that or isn't interested in that, it will fail. So we then develop a context and then we ascertain what the community wants to do, what training they need, where they're going to find it. Then we get to point 3. What is point 3? Structures are important. You know, as I mentioned, you need a farmers association. You need an infrastructure committee that you train those people how to look after infrastructure, how to install solar water pumps, how to do fencing properly. Then you only get to point 4, which is work. That's when we actually start training people how to look after their rangelands, how to look after their cattle. We then start looking at upgrading livestock genetics. We look at fitting solar pumps in where there comes with no water. You know, a lot of the regions that we worked in, there was one village of 3,000 hectares that only had one water point. So what happens there is that all the cattle graze around the water and they overgraze that region and they don't graze the furthest regions. So these are all facts and things that we had to look at. And training basically, you know, in our opinion, centers around a few things. In terms of livestock farming, it was about animal health. It was about animal nutrition, where water and grazing methodology falls into that. It was then, as Gugu alluded to, management. You know, no farming operation can work without management. You know, if you don't know what to look for in a sick sheep, or if you look at a sheep and you don't know how to inject that sheep, if it is sick, or you don't know what signs to look at to ascertain what is that sheep or cow or ox, you know, actually suffering from. So there was all these little training things that we went through. We taught the youth, we got the youth on board to, you know, a lot of our issues in these regions were that, and I've got no, this is not disrespect for the elderly because they've got vast experience and knowledge, but a lot of the management committees were being run by elderly folk who were retired, who didn't really have an interest, you know, to make sure that farming works. You know, a lot of them were on pensions, a lot had been civil servants in the past, so we had to start a new process to get the youth involved. You know, without the youth being involved, you've got no future. So our training also extends to actual training at our Savory Hub, which is in Hogsback in the Eastern Cape, where folk can go to and be trained in holistic management. You know, there may be people who are anti-holistic management that think it doesn't work. But, you know, we've actually proved it does work because we've got something called EOV, which is environmental outcomes verification, which is a very scientific test to see what's happening in the ground, to see what's happening with different grasses in the ground. Are good grasses coming back? Are good grasses vanishing? So we train the community in EOV also to actually understand, is what we're doing working? You know, it's easy to implement something or some type of a methodology or project and saying to your funders, yeah, well, this is all working well, but it's not being seen, you know, down at grass level. You know, I always tell people, don't look at rangelands and camps from the side. Walk into the camp and look down. You'll see what's happening. So Google also mentioned a few interesting things about needing to know about markets. Where do I market things? How do I sell them? So part of the training that we also did was to introduce these communities to external partners. You know, there is no farmer that can work or make a success without external partners. For example, an external partner could be the state vet. It could be the seed company that comes and gives you advice. It could be the red meat organizations that come and offer you advice. It could be animal health organizations that sell livestock medicines. So it's vitally important that communities develop those external partnerships that assist them to get to where they want to get to. And it's a very challenging thing to farm in a communal system because, as I reiterate, you've got many, many farmers all trying to farm on the same farm, and some may have very different ideas of how they want to farm. You know, so they could actually be farming against each other. For example, a guy may bring in a Jersey bull, you know, as a breeding bull, and he's trying to breed beef cattle. You know, that now is a problem for all the other farmers. So it's so important to go back to what I mentioned about the training and the skills, that point 3, which I mentioned, or points 2 and 3, context and structures, vitally important. So I think I'm not going to say much more, but our entire initiative was to try to get a type of a blueprint. You know, it's hard to get a blueprint for all areas because, as I reiterate, all of these different regions differ very greatly. But there are certain methodologies that you can use and thought patterns. You know, we also use something called the In Rhythm Regenerative Framework, which is basically a framework that assists people how to organize themselves. And those points 1 to 5 is actually the In Rhythm Regenerative Framework. So to come back to skills, you know, it's vitally important because young emerging farmers or young new farmers, whatever you'd like to call them, need to understand that farming is not only a bed of roses. It's a very, very demanding game. It's becoming increasingly demanding with big competitors, with foreign countries sending a lot of cheap product into South Africa. We've got a weakening rand that makes importing a lot more expensive. We've had our Eskom issues that had a bit of an issue with the maize price. You know, our big feedlots in South Africa buy hundreds of thousands of cattle, of calves a year. Now, there came a problem that the feedlots kept on dropping the prices because they were experiencing very heavy cost inputs. So where weaner calves were going at 41 Rand a kilo, they're now going at roughly 30 Rand a kilo. You know, that makes your profitability issue a major problem. So these are all types of things that we try. And then too, I'll just also mention that I'm a columnist for Farmers Weekly. I've got a column that comes out twice a month. I try to offer advice there to emerging farmers. That column goes to a lot of the African countries. Yes, so, you know, I just feel that we also need to get more organizations on board. You know, we need to get big business on board, you know, the big supermarket chains. Let's approach them, let's talk. You know, agriculture is something that we need. It isn't really just a sector. You know, without food, you have no country. Without food security, you have no stability. So, in a nutshell, that's what I've been doing. And, you know, that is the type of training and upskilling that we've been doing. So, I don't know, Janine, if you'd like to ask me any questions.
Thanks, Shane. Yeah, so somebody in the Q&A section asked, or said that can they start a poultry farm with little knowledge? So I presume you can, but it's probably not advisable. What kind of courses or training should this person look at getting first before they even embark on an operation?
Janine, you know that poultry farming, it's not one of I have kept chickens in the past, you know, I haven't really farmed them commercially though, you know, I've been more, as I said, involved in sheep, goat, cattle and pig farming. But poultry farming is a very difficult one because it's a game where there are very, very big competitors. So I'm not saying that one shouldn't start a poultry farming project. You know, you can always start and look for niche markets. But I would suggest that you approach poultry organizations. You know, there must be a poultry growers organization in South Africa. The first port of call for me is to contact them. I'm certain that they would know what mentors are out there or what advice forums are out there. But I wouldn't just go into, you know, head on. You know, the big thing with farming too, what a lot of folk don't realize is that it's a game of very high daily, weekly, monthly and yearly inputs with only very cyclical returns. You know, for example, a lamb farmer feeding, breeding fat lamb only gets income once a year. But he's got daily costs, he's got Eskom costs, he's got wages, he's got salaries, he's got fuel costs. So it's very important. And as what Gugu mentioned too earlier, is to have a plan. You know, prior to diving into something head on, which, as I say, I'm not saying that one mustn't do, but just get your homework right first. You could more than likely even contact folk like Maritjie. I mean, I'm sure she could, you know, their college is very involved in farming. And, you know, she could maybe assist them.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, Shane, I'm sure we'll have some questions for you at the end as well. Jenny, it's great to you. Can you just also reintroduce yourself just to remind people where you're from?
Okay, so I'm Jenny Moore. I'm from RecruitAgri. We are based in White River in the Lowveld, and I'm a director of RecruitAgri and I mentor the graduates. So I think I must start with explaining why we started the program, and we actually started in 2018. But before that, we were actually looking for middle management ourselves. We are farmers as well here. And we had over 100 CVs on our desk, and you actually couldn't distinguish between one CV and the next because no one had work experience. So we decided to create a program where we can provide this practical experience to agricultural graduates so that by the end of the year, they would find themselves employable and actually use our network. We would actually network for them and use our network to go further. So we started in 2018 and we started small. We started with 4 graduates and it was very successful. Those 4 graduates were snatched up very quickly at the end of the program and they were all employed in junior farm management positions. So we grew from that. The following year we had 6 graduates. We went on to 9 graduates. That was our year we had our first 2 women on the program. We were worried beforehand that they might not be able to cope with the, Gugu, you're going to laugh at this, but the physical work. And we were worried, and they were unbelievable. They were just, no task was too difficult. they got their hands dirty, and they were the first 2 that were employed at the end of that year, very, very quickly. So we increased the next year. We had an intake of 14, and we actually then had 50% women and 50% men. And then we went on to 26 graduates, and this year we've actually got 21 graduates. So we are growing. This year we had a slight decline in graduates, and I'll explain why. It's because it's related to our grower partners and because of the budget constraints this year with the macadamia and avo industry and citrus. Yeah, a lot of people are watching their budgets, so I'll just explain the whole program around that. But that's basically how we have started. So we are a non-profit organization, so we rely on funders to keep ourselves afloat and to keep the growth. You talk about, Shane, you know, these associations. I also think we are one of our two of our big funders are SAMAC, which is the Macadamia Association, and SAGA, the Avocado Association. And it is important to link up with those associations because they want to see, for us, middle management changing in that sector. So they are very for the program. They are for transformation. So I think that has been a big help. Our other industry partners are people in the agri sector. It can be from your agri insurance guys to your banks, chemical companies, Johnson Workwear. So everyone who actually provides something into that agri sector or is a supplier or someone involved in that sector is a good person to have on board as an industry partner. And for us, our industry partners are our, I would like to say, cash cow that actually just helps us run the admin side of the business. Our other partners are grower partners, and they are vitally important because each grower partner is actually a training facility for us. So a grower partner can be anywhere in the low veld, and we've actually now extended to Natal and to Limpopo. So we have farmers out there who want to be part of the program, and they actually assist with paying something towards a stipend to have the graduate on the farm. They are very chuffed because for them, and again, I will explain the process and the model, but for them, they get to see 5 graduates throughout the 10 months. They get it's almost like a personal interview with that graduate for 2 months. They get to see if that graduate fits in with their culture, with their management team, and vice versa, if the graduate actually likes that culture and the management style. And at the end of the year, they have an option of employing the graduate. If they don't want to employ, it's just, they feel it's a give back. So it actually works both ways. And then we just have our collaborating partners who are also part of the industry, Ruddermans, SharePro training, any facility or person, Megro Learning that can provide some sort of skill upliftment or training. They are our collaborating partners. So that's actually how we fund the nonprofits. So who are we looking for? We decided we wanted to go for agricultural graduates who had completed their degree or diploma and who were 25 years and younger and who had a valid driver's license. So a lot of people say, why are you sort of aiming at 25 years and younger? I think the YES program and a lot of programs out there, youth goes on up until your 30s. But we felt we wanted to find the graduates that had just left university that were still passionate about what they'd studied. They had the energy, and we didn't necessarily want to find applicants or graduates who'd gone through too many internships and just gone from one internship to the next. So we decided we would, the cutoff sort of age would be 25 years and younger. So the driver's license, I think in the beginning we didn't ask for a driver's license, and then we found that because the graduates were being employed so quickly, the farmers or the farm managers who want them to be junior farm managers needed them to drive a vehicle. You know, they've got to take a spray team out, or, you know, they've got to be able to drive a bakkie. So we decided rather make that a prerequisite than sort of wait till the end of the year once they'd finished the program. So that was that realization. So our aim is to provide this practical farm experience, and in the low We started off in macadamias, avos, and kiwis. And I think the most important thing was a transfer of skills. So that was the aim of the project, is to take a farm manager and let him transfer the skills to this graduate within the 10 months. I also think networking was important, because we also realized that a lot of the graduates come from families or communities where they don't have the network. They don't have an uncle or a father in the farming business who they can rely on to network for them and to get their foot in the door. So we would be their network, and then obviously open up the employment opportunities for them at the end of the year. So that's the aim of the program. Also, we decided the graduates have studied, they've done all the theory, they don't need to redo the theory, they just need the practical experience. So our program is aimed at 90% practical experience, and then we have an online, it actually didn't start as an online, it started as a face-to-face lectures, everything to do with the practical work that they were actually doing on the farms. And then due to COVID, we went online, which was actually great for us, because we managed to then expand the footprints, and now all our classes are online. So we have a lecture and video, any important videos. In fact, Gugu, I was thinking I would love to put your video or your presentation onto the classroom, because I think they need, as much as the lecture helps them and the presentation that they're given, it's very nice to have extra information. And then we do an assessment attached to that. And it'll be things like harvesting, it'll be pruning, fertilizer, soil, it'll be your irrigation, it'll be global gap, it'll be economics, it'll be, we do a project establishment, a new farm that is done by one of the the guys that work for FNB. So we do all these different lectures based on the practical work that they should be learning on the farm. The assessments that we do ask them to get 70% and above, because they should be able to use their experience to actually answer all the questions, and actually all the information is there. So we do have that criteria. So that happens as well as them on the working on the farm. So it is tiring. Gugu, you again also alluded to the fact that you need to take a break sometimes from agri work, and it is hard, and the winters are hard. But yes, our 10-month program is intense, and they do have this online classes with it. So, and the program runs for 10 months. We start, they rotate from February till the end of November, but we start with an induction 10 days in the middle of January. And the induction is, all the graduates are brought together. It doesn't matter if they're going to be placed in Natal or in Limpopo or in Mpumalanga. So they're all brought together, and we actually do the training here on the farm in White River. And it is the skills tractor driving courses. They do motorbike courses. They do quad bike lessons. We have a lady coming up from Cape Town who does a workshop on management and leadership for 2 days. We've got health and safety requirements on the farm. We've got safe usage of chemicals, lectures like that. We've got a human resources lecture, how to handle a disciplinary story, how to go about it, who do you report it to. We've got that going on, and we also do an orientation on all the farms and the farm managers and how they're going to conduct themselves, our policies, and obviously the farm and the farms and how they work. We do that induction as well. So by the time they've finished the 10 days with us, they are ready to go to their farms. I think one thing we are going to introduce next year is a driver's competency test, because we have found that now that we've insisted that the graduates have a driver's license, sometimes they haven't had the opportunity to have the experience driving a vehicle. So we have had a few little accidents here and there with bucky reversing and all sorts of things, but so that's fine. That's what we expect, and we're learning as we go. So that's just one thing we will make sure of next year, that they're competent at their driving as well. So we operate for 10 months. We rotate from February to the end of November. The graduate rotates every 2 months to a different farm. So in the beginning, the graduate will say, well, why do I need to rotate? I'm very comfortable. I've just arrived at the farm. I've just got to know the management. I'm settled, and now I have to pack up and leave to the next farm. And we do this so that we are providing maximum exposure to, like I said earlier, to the different farming techniques and to different crops. So you might go to a farm, a macadamia farm, and it's a newly established farm, and you are doing something very different with irrigation and cluster irrigation setups, as opposed to a developed macadamia farm where it's predominantly harvesting, and it's a very different setup. So we do it just to create that maximum exposure. So that's every 2 months. Also, as I said earlier, the farmer gets to interview that graduate for 2 months. If he doesn't particularly get on with the graduate, it doesn't mean that the graduate's there for 10 months and he loses interest in the graduate and then doesn't train the graduate or doesn't transfer the skills. In 2 months' time, he knows the graduate's changing, and we move the graduate to another farm. So that's our reasoning behind the model that we actually use. We also do we actually launched this year processing side, processing and packaging side of the program. And there we decided, because of the IP for in the macadamia processing factories, we've actually decided this model works slightly differently to the farming side. The graduate will spend 4.5 months in a macadamia processing plant and then move to an avocado or vegetable, any other form of packaging and processing. We've actually got the mango guys coming on board next year. They are desperate for that middle management. They've got a huge gap in their sector. So it's just a processing and packaging course, and the graduates move every 4.5 months. So we've done that just to protect the IP for the macadamia guys. So we also only send one graduate to one grower partner or to one farm. So our reasoning behind that is we don't want a situation where you've got 2 or 3 graduates and they're all sitting in the bakkie with the farm manager, and the quietest guy gets to sit at the back and he doesn't really get heard and he doesn't get to shine. So our whole reasoning around that is let there be a one-on-one relationship with the farm manager and the graduate. Whether it's a farm manager, supervisor, actually on some of the farms now, some of our employed graduates from when they first started are actually transferring the skills to the new graduates, which is fantastic. So that's our reasoning behind our one-on-one setup, which does limit us because we only can take on as many graduates as we have growers, like a training facility. So my aim throughout the year is to bring on more growers. We obviously have to vet them. We take them through the whole process, and then we also check their accommodation, because accommodation is provided on the farm. So we also we have a basic list for accommodation of what our requirements, and we sort of vet the grower. But yes, so I think losing the 5 growers this year because of the budget constraints was quite, we understood it, but it meant I couldn't take on 5 graduates. So at the moment, we've just done a visit up to Limpopo, and we've got new growers on board. We've got new growers on board in Mpumalanga, and Natal is looking good as well. So I think we are going to have a better year next year. We also are, and I'm working quite hard at that, is trying to subsidize the grower. So I am looking for extra funding, which I'm busy doing now, and I think it's looking quite promising, so that we can alleviate a bit of the stress for the grower. Not that it's slightly above minimum wage that they pay, but I just think I need to hang on to that training facility. So that's sort of the reasoning behind me trying to just find some extra funding for the grower. We also are, when I say we work in Natal and Limpopo, we do want to look at expanding the footprint. I am interested in the Western Cape, and also the Eastern Cape. Shane, I've thought about it a lot, and we actually changed. We used to call RecruitAgri farming with graduates, and then we obviously launched the processing side, so we've now changed it to growing with graduates. And we've actually had a couple of meetings with other people as well, who are now asking us, well, would you do livestock? Would you do some other form of farming? And I think that's why it is growing with graduates. I think the model works, and I think you can apply it to any kind of farming or anything in that agri sector. And like we all know, I mean, it's so diverse. So that's why we've actually changed the name now. And we are definitely, every year we want to either expand the footprint or expand the expertise. So that's sort of what we're looking at as well. We have an interview process in October. So our whole aim is the success of the program is to find employment for the graduates. I didn't ever want it to be an internship where it was just another internship and the graduate left and possibly went on to another internship afterwards. For me, the success is finding employment. We have been very, very lucky to date. I think we were running an 88% employment rate at the end of last year, at the end of the interviews last year, and we're now at 98%. We found the other graduates a job. So we actually ran an interview process in October. We have a company, Agri Job in Johannesburg or Pretoria. They're a collaborating partner. They do a workshop with the graduates beforehand, how to conduct themselves in an interview, what are the right questions to ask, how do you handle a salary chat, and they get to ask questions as well. We do all their covering letters, we do their CVs, we redo their CVs. I do a lecture with them as well on different interview skills, what to expect, how you can answer certain questions on your weaknesses, your strengths, all those kind of things that do crop up. So we do prepare the graduates for the interview process. And last year we had, in 2 days, we had 72 interviews that happened. So we had our Natal node, and they had, we just choose one central node. They were actually at Mayomac in Natal, and all the guys who needed to interview, all the farmers went there to interview. Otherwise they had online interview setups, and we had a lady from RecruitAgri went up to Limpopo. We did it at Red Sun, and we had that whole interview process up there for all the graduates that were in the Limpopo area and those farmers that were interested. So we're finding, as the program evolves, that the job positions are just so diverse. They have, initially we started with a junior farm manager, then we put in an assistant junior farm manager because we found some of the graduates are not necessarily as strong as others. So the strong graduates just get taken up very, very quickly. They've got good management skills, and they literally they walk into a junior farm manager position. And the others that possibly need to just grow within a company or a farm that's small and they've also got budget constraints would prefer to take on a graduate at a lower salary and rather let that graduate grow with the team or just sort of grow into the position. And now we're finding we've just got nursery positions, we've got quality control assistants, we've got production assistants, we've got technical assistants, we've got irrigation specialists. It's just very diverse, and I think that's great. I think because the industry is slowly starting to realize that they can use these graduates in all sorts of different positions. And Gugu, you also alluded to that the pie is big. So there are different jobs for everyone. So that's our interview process in October. And then our applications for each year start. We open the portal, the CV portal, in August. That's on our website. It runs till the middle of September. And in the beginning, we didn't have a CV portal. Everyone just emailed their CVs, but we had over 1,000 CVs. So we had to create some sort of sifting process, which we then created the CV portal where you do need to upload your documents, you do need to get things certified, you have to answer a few questions. So that's how our applications come through. And then we shortlist those applications, and another director, Hammond, and myself, we do the interviewing. So we interview about 50 graduates every year, and we score them individually, and then we combine our scores, and we take graduates who score above 80%. So we are very careful on our selection process, because the success of the program is it is the top applicant that we can possibly recruit. So yeah, so to date we haven't ever had, we've always managed to find those graduates scoring above 80%. So we have a nice pool to pull the graduates from. So So that's how the application process works. I'm just trying to think what else I need to cover here. Yeah, I've spoken about our goals, like scaling up. Like I say, we would like to expand the footprint. We just need to decide where we're going with that. And I think, yeah, I think we're in our 6th year now, and I think we are very happy with the program. Funding is obviously for us always not a worry, because I think we're sitting in a good position now. I know that if our funders pulled out the program, we could definitely run for a year without having to stress. So that has been my aim, is that I never wanted to end the program in the middle of the year if we suddenly ran out of funds. And at the moment we are comfortable that we can do that very, very easily. So yeah, so that's RecruitAgri. So I think, Maritjie, we did actually chat to Letty at Elsenburg. I think our whole aim is we were finding our male intake was actually not as strong and not as big as we would have liked it. And we've sort of now connecting with the universities and colleges, because we did think about the program. Maybe we're taking completed diploma and degree students, and maybe we should be finding those students in their last year so that they don't disappear the next year. So we are sort of engaging with universities now to give us their top 10 or 20 students in their 3rd or last semester who are going to pass, and who are your top students, so that we can already approach them, or they can already apply even though they haven't completed their degree or diploma. So that's been a slight shift this year. So yeah, but we are definitely wanting the universities and the colleges on board. We do need to partner with them. The other person that I find, a company that we are very excited about, is Pulse. I don't know if you've heard about Pulse. You must have heard about Pulse, Maritjie. But they are taking graduates, and they want to move them into that commercial farming space and Black ownership of farms and land. And they are, they're up here in Mpumalanga, and I know they're in the Western Cape. So we are going to do some training for them. They want us to do the training on this side. They're looking for our grads who now the first grads that came to the program do have the 5 or 6 years experience now, and that's who they want to tap into. So I don't want to let the farmers down who've trained these guys, and they're now junior farm managers or managers in their setup. But I think that's the circle of life, really, that you are going to move on at some stage, and then you're making room for other graduates to come into the system. And that's how I think it might work. So that is RecruitAgri. Yeah, that's what we do.
Thank you, Jenny. I just wanted to ask you, so at the moment, is the on-farm training, is that only on macadamia and avocado farms?
So in the Lowveld here, it was macadamias and avos and kiwis. We found it was more citrus, pecan nuts, and down in Natal it was bananas, it was tea tree oil, it was that's why it's just widening as we go. So but our training, our actual curriculum is based on the macadamia avo side of things, but that you can actually apply to a lot of crops, the basics. So I think that'll be fine.
Okay. And at some point, as you were saying, you're hoping to expand it even to livestock.
It's been a consideration, yes.
Okay. And then in terms of capacity, so are you guys at full capacity now? So I know you said that it depends on how many growers you have, but so I think you have 21 graduates this year, is that right? Would you have been able to take more, or was that like your limit?
So we have been approached by a group who also said to us, what is our maximum capacity? We have decided at a board level that I think we would do 50. 50 would be probably we would cap it at 50. I don't want to be a program that has, a huge intake, and I can't, I have to provide the employment. For me, that's the most So I don't want to spread myself too thin, and I don't want to push ourselves out of that market. So I think 50. At the moment, we are sort of aiming at 40 for next year and 40 for 2025. So we are busy finding growers, and I think we've actually been quite successful already. We're going to expand the processing side. So we're going to take the processing, double the processing side, and we've got enough processors for that. They are desperate for middle management. So they are happy to take on 2 graduates like in the Mayomac area and the other macadamia processors, and we're just busy engaging with them. And then we will not double up on the farming side, but we will add another 10 on the farming side. So we'll get to 40 probably next year.
Okay. Okay. I am just going to look at some of the questions that have been posted online or on the Q&A panel. I think, Maritjie, perhaps you can answer this one. Maritjie, are you there?
I'm here, yes.
So does Elsenburg have any long distance programs, long online programs?
Not at this stage. We actually focus a huge deal on the practical part of the agricultural curriculum, and we, especially our diploma and degree and learnership programs, we've got a very big part of the curriculum is practical that they do on campus. The diploma students also are placed within the agricultural sector at host employers, where they do workplace integrated learning for 1 year, as well as the learnership students that will do it every alternative month. So at this stage, we do not have an online distance learning. We do look at it in the future to also, extend our footprint, and also because that is actually the demand. We need to reach many more people and students to be informed, but that will always be combined with a practical part. Like Jenny also said, there's a contact session in the mid-January when they start. Jenny, if I understand you correctly. So our diploma students in the last year of workplace integrated learning, they will go out on the different farms where they are placed, but they will come back for 3 contact sessions. Other than the workplace integrated learning, there's a very big part of assessed practical that they need to do on campus, but we are looking at distance learning for the future.
Cool, thank you. And I think it also just bears noting that there are agri colleges, international agri skills transfer. Those are the ones I can just think of off the top of my head that do offer online courses for people that would find it difficult to actually attend a course on campus. Shane, there's a question here with regards to access to market. Are you there?
Janine?
So the question is there any other market that small-scale farmers can explore besides the feedlot industry?
Sorry, could you just say that again?
So the question is there any other markets that small-scale farmers can explore besides the feedlot industry?
Yes, there certainly are. Janine, one of the components of the projects that we run is to get buyers, or let's say assistants, out into these areas to become the link between these small-scale farmers and the markets. It may be even linking them to the feedlots, or even to abattoirs, or to organizations that buy store cattle. Store cattle being very similar to feedlotting, but what you would then do is that you'd buy, if a seller's got a lean cow or lean ox in the middle of the winter, that seller can then market that on to groups that add value, that would buy those cattle and then put them onto other farms and fatten them and then slaughter them. So I think the link up here, and it's quite interesting what Jenny actually mentioned is that we need these external partners. You know, a lot of these farmers don't know where to market, you know, their cattle, how to market them. A lot of farmers don't even know what the livestock is worth. You know, you could have a cow that could be worth, for example, 8,000 Rand, and you're being offered 5,500 Rand. And, you know, we've seen a lot of that in the communal areas. So we've actually got a person who goes out and assists these guys to find markets according to what livestock they have. But what sellers can actually do is to maybe contact the red meat organizations or go to one of the big auctioneering firms and ask them, you know, for some advice as to how they can market. The big thing is that no auctioneering firm or agent is going to come out just to buy one cow. You know, because they've got to send a truck, you know, it could be long distances, it's, you know, very heavy fuel costs. So what sellers should actually do is to combine their animals and like have a marketing day. You know, and this is why I said it's so important to have structures like farmers associations that if you've got, say, 30 or 40 cattle, it's then viable to get an agent to come in to look at them and to price them. And it's also important, you know, to understand the value of that livestock. You know, what grades are they? Are they A grades or A, B grades or B grades or C grades? I mean, and are they A noughts or ones or twos? You know, those are all gradings according to the type of meat. So in a few of the columns which I've written for Farmers Weekly, I've explained that, you know, how to look at what the animal, what the meat grading is of that animal. You know, in the past year, I used to run an abattoir when I left university. So I got to learn a lot about that, and that is vital knowledge that farmers need to know.
And in terms of access to veterinary assistance, someone also asked about veterinary assistance specifically for small-scale farmers. Who can people contact with regards to that?
Janine, it's quite important that these farmers link up with these state vets. That is one option. You know, the state vets are always there and they'll always have a vet on duty. The second option is to get hold of one of the reps for one of the livestock medicine companies. A lot of them do go out into rural areas and will go out there and have like information days and that sort of thing. So I reiterate again, it's important to have that farmers association to approach people like the state vet or like the a livestock medicine company, because it's hard for those companies to come out and assist if you've just got like ad hoc requests from every second farmer. You know, one guy may have a sick sheep and he wants, you know, the state vet to come out. It may be more viable for the Farmers Association to approach the state vet and say, well, we've got a few issues here with sheep or cattle, you know. Then you go to your farming group in your village or in your region, might be a small scale farmer, not even a communal farmer. Get a few farmers on board, form a committee, go to the state vet and say, can you come assist us maybe once a month, you know, or can we come to you for assistance? It's important to do things like autopsies. You know, if you're losing a lot of livestock or your sheep, lambs are dying, there's a reason why they're dying. So, you know, pool your funds, take a dead lamb in and let the state vet do an autopsy, and he can tell you exactly what the problem is. It could be worm related, it could be illness related, you know, it could be that the lambs haven't been vaccinated. So I think, you know, the whole thing about structure is important. You know, it's very hard as a small farmer to do things on your own. You know, when you're a very big corporate group, you know, running 100 farms or whatever, the vets will fall over backwards, you know, to come out and assist you. But when you're a small farmer running 10 or 15 or 20 sheep, you know, often it's hard to have this voice in the wilderness, if I could actually call it that. So this is why it's so important to form structures. And if you're in a region of a lot of small scale farmers, as I say, may they not even be communal farmers, form a farmers association there. elect a chairperson, elect office bearers, elect someone who can go see the vet. So this whole thing is about structure and organization, which I reiterate is what I covered in my presentation there. So yeah, that's also part of the skill set. We talk about what skills are needed to be a successful farmer. That organizational skill set is vitally important. That's actually where it all starts, because your learning comes from that skill to know who to approach for advice and assistance.
Jenny, someone asked, sorry, now I just need to try to find the question again. If there is a specific program that you follow in the training, I assume they mean the theoretical training. Do you follow a specific program, or is it your own program, your own training?
No, the Olive Foundation institutes two different training sets, let's call it that. One is holistic management, which is basically, teaching a community or a farmer how to farm holistically. There are various stages and steps that we go through there. They may involve, some of the holistic tools, as we call them, is like having a grazing plan. A farmer would have a plan. We would teach that farmer how to develop that grazing plan using herders of livestock, because a lot of the regions that we work in have got no fences. So it's hard to use like a rotational grazing system if you've got no fences. So we use herders that use what we call virtual camps. So you take the area and you break it up actually on a written map that the farmer or the community understands. So one virtual area could be called virtual area A. Like in the regions that we work in, we've got names like Mafuta Camp. So all the people in the village know that would be Mafuta Camp. So the herders then get trained also how to graze according to that grazing plan. And then we also have a land plan. These are things I'd have liked to have covered earlier, but I just didn't think I had enough time. So we go through the holistic training course, and those are the skill sets that farmers will eventually adopt and will then know how to farm what we call regeneratively. Farming in a manner that you're looking after your grass and your water and your soil, and knowing how to move that livestock around your farm or around your region. So part of the training is holistic management, and then the second part of the training, which we actually do first, is that regenerative framework. That one where I explained that you firstly ascertain the community health or even the farmer's health. If it's a normal farmer, what are the issues which are affecting him on his farm? So we actually sit down with that farmer and we allow him to ascertain what the challenges actually are. Then we go to point 2, which is the context. What context does he want to farm in? What does he want to farm? What does he want to achieve? So he then develops like a statement of purpose. This is a purpose on my farm and this is exactly what I'm trying to achieve. Then he puts his structures in place. Who's going to look after my sheep? Who's going to look after my water and my infrastructure? Am I going to do it, or am I going to employ someone to actually do it? Then we get down to actual work. That is now instituting the actual holistic management land plan and the grazing plan. It's only after that we maintain that you can get to a form of abundance. So it's very important that Jenny and them have got these training institutes in Elsenburg. That is also an important part of how this thing works, because you're just upskilling that farmer to better understand what the holistic system is about. So it may be very viable for a new farmer to go to an organization like Jenny's, get that training, or go to Elsenburg, and then maybe do a course in holistic management, which covers a lot of those things. And like I say, in the holistic management, we cover things like animal health. How do you vaccinate sheep, cattle? When do you vaccinate them? For what do you vaccinate them? What medicines are used? How do we dip cattle, for ticks? How often are they dipped? So all those little components form part of the training that we do. I've ever since I'm no longer with the Olive Leaf Foundation. Our Belgian contract came to end in February. So I'm not really involved in that now anymore, but any people seeking assistance, I mean, I can assist them. I'm concentrating more on my own farming operations now. But just to quickly just add one thing, Janine, what Jenny also said is that funding is very important. We found a big lack of a want, to fund these types of things. And it is there where we need to look at other sectors of society, to come onto board. So I hope that answers what you asked.
Thank you, Shane. Jenny?
Yes.
Yeah, so just to reiterate that question, is there a specific program that you follow in your training courses? Or is it your own homemade course?
Yeah, so it's our own course. We've actually got a guy who's got over 30 years experience. He visits all the farms in the Lowveld, the Abo and macadamia farms. So he helps us put together that lecture material, and then we sort of put the assessments together. We did get an expert in to do a citrus curriculum, because we thought we would actually open up the citrus side this year, and we just found the citrus, I think they just were hit hard last year. So that's just been put on hold, but it is actually our own, and it's not part of the Agri-CETA. I did look at the unit standards there, but at the end of the day, these graduates are above the NQ level anyway. They've got their degrees and diplomas. So, and it's not to repeat it; it's just to match the practical experience on the farm.
And what does the course cover? That was the second part of the question. Was what does it cover? Which aspects of production does it cover?
So it starts with growing and marketing of abos and macadamias. You'll go on to harvesting, pruning, the fertigation side. What else is there? Soils. You do, like I said, your global gap, all of those regulations, you'll do that. So human resources. You'll do how to apply for an agricultural loan through the banks. They do a whole lecture on that. So it's just covering, I think, your basic farming experience that you'll find on the farms that they need to know.
Okay, thank you. It is now 3 minutes to 12, so I think we'll call it there. All the panelists have made some contact details available that we'll share with the people who've been who attended the webinar. We'll also, the webinar has been recorded, so it will be shared on our YouTube, the Farmers Weekly YouTube page. I'm sure a link will also be given on Facebook and our other social media. So before we end the webinar, I just want to thank all our panelists for joining us. Some of you on very short notice, so thank you very much. Really appreciate your time. And then I'd also just like to thank all our attendees for joining us. If you have any specific questions that you'd like to ask some of the panelists, then those contact details will be made available to you, as I said earlier. So thank you very much. We hope to see you at the next webinar. And until then, happy farming. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Janine.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.